Okay, in this video we're checking out the new Eachine X220HV. This is their third iteration of the Eachine Wizard for 5-inch freestyle. The first two, I think actually the very first one, the X220, that one was a really popular model. A lot of people did mods on it. It was, obviously it was very inexpensive, and obviously it was 4S. I think actually it was 3S, I believe. It was the battery at the time, and maybe it came out like 2 years ago, from a year and a half, something like that. It was a while. It's been out for a while. It's been very popular, and they've had a second iteration, which was the X220S. I think that was like the 4S upgrade, very similar. It was based off the QAVR frame, I believe. And now we've got the 6S version here, the X220HV, and I think by far this is their nicest 5-inch drone that they've ever produced. Top to bottom, everywhere, motors, components, the build quality is really good. And again, they have a fantastic price on this at $189. Hopefully I'll have a coupon code for you guys. I've been asking them to send me the same coupon code that Drone Camp's got. I think it's like $20 off. So it'd be like $169, $170 for this. It would be a fantastic deal. Obviously it doesn't come with a GoPro or the battery here. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like. Basically I just flew it like this, and this mount is included, this little camera mount. I have a GoPro Session 5 in here. I think in the product pictures it was a RunCam 3 or 3S, something like that, which is a little bit bigger, but the GoPro fits in here just fine. I had no issues with it coming out or anything like that, and that alone is like a $10 to $15 value, and it's included in the package, and you just have to put a zip tie here to hold it down. Not a problem at all, works totally fine. But yeah, I wanted to show you what it looks like with the GoPro and the battery and the props on. This is what it looks like, and it's pretty heavy. It's over 500 grams. I try to weigh it with my scale here, which only goes to 500 grams. So I'm going to have to take off some stuff here, and then I'm going to take the props off as well to show you a little bit closer what it looks like inside. I'll probably take the top plate off and show you some of the components inside. Everything in here is really nicely put together. I flew it stock. I didn't make any PID changes. Flew with the stock props. Pretty much you're going to get an out-of-the-box experience here from what you're going to see. I did make a couple of minor tweaks because of just things that I personally like. It didn't take too long. I only invested about 15 minutes of my time to get this ready and into the air so we could fly it. So if you're looking for something that's pretty much ready to go out of the box without, you don't need a lot of tuning, you can go and fly and have fun, this model is pretty much ready to go. You do have to add a receiver. That was the thing that took me the longest time to add, but it's not a big deal. I'll show you that here in a second. But let me go ahead and kind of take some of the stuff off here, and I want to give you weight measurements before I start tearing it apart. Okay, so just some weight measurements. The GoPro here, Session 5 is about 72 grams. And this battery I'm using, here's a prototype battery. It's from iFlight RC. They are going to be sending me some updated batteries. I think they said they had some issues with the voltage sag on these, and you'll see that in the video. But this is a 1050 milliamp hour 6S LiPo, and it's 193 grams. And this is the weight of the drone with just the GoPro mount, battery straps, and props. Pretty much everything except for the battery and the GoPro, and it's coming at 433 grams. And I'll put the total weight up here on the screen so you know what the flying weight was for the flight demo. Okay, so I took the props off so we can take a closer look at these motors here. Probably the nicest Eachine motors I've ever seen, and I think in the past they've been criticized at their quality, and I think that they're using the same factory that the Sprague motors are coming from Racer Star. Very nice and thick copper windings there. The bell I think is 7075 aluminum, and there's like the nut. It's like anodized. It's like painted purple, like it's an anodized paint. It's not like painted on with some sort of cheap paint. It's 2306 1650 kV low kV motor for 6S. Lots of low end grunt, very smooth bearings. And all the bearings are very nice. And we have a nice hollow shaft. I think it's the steel shaft, not sure what quality of steel it is, but I'm sure it's pretty decent. And we have a set screw on the bottom, not a C-clip, so all positives. And yeah, it's going to be hard to see the magnets there. I'm going to try and get that in focus. They look like curved magnets. Very tight air gap. The motor was very, very good in flight. Felt very responsive on the low end and had pretty good top end as well. So really no complaints about the motor. The motor is I think, like I said, nicest looking, but I think is the highest quality Eachine motor that I've seen to date. And it has plenty of power and performance, so no complaints about the motor. Very nice motor wires as well, thick motor wires, and all the solder joints and everything are really nice. I'm going to go ahead and take this top plate off so I can show you the components inside. Yeah, basically it's like an omnibus for flight controller. You got a 4-in-1 BLHeli SEC, not BLHeli 32, so that was one little thing that was kind of disappointing. But, you know, D-Shot 600 is plenty good. I believe it's a 50 amp 490 AC. And then you have a video transmitter back here along with a really super loud 110 decibel buzzer that also acts as a lost model alarm, kind of like the V-Fly Finder lost model alarm, but built in, so it's nice, another added value. And then I think on this side here we have the SpeedyBee Bluetooth module for connecting to Betaflight on the flight controller without using the USB port. You can use your smartphone to make changes in the field. And then I added a XM Plus receiver right there. It comes as a plug and play. At least currently, I don't think any bind and fly options are available yet, so, but they might come out later. Did I put that in? That took the longest amount of time. And then I used the two little holes here that were in the 3D print part here for the VTX antenna. And I added these little forever tubes myself. I had some of these on hand. Just pop the XM Plus antennas out through the back here and then put these tubes on so that the antennas are nice and protected. You'll have to source these yourself. I'm not sure why they don't include these, but I happen to have a lot of these lying around from other builds, so that was not a problem for me. But you could probably use like zip ties in here if you want, or like, you know, maybe some sort of really thick straw, or like something that could, that's pretty stiff, that could hold on the antenna, and that'll keep it out of the props as long as it's maintaining this angle here. You got your XC60 out of the back, and then you got this like, looks like a TBS Triumph clone, the stubby out the back here. And what I did is I did tighten down this nut here. If you don't do that, then this will spin around, and you know that you don't have good contact when you screw down your antenna. So make sure you tighten that up, and so you have enough threads here so that the antenna is actually secure and actually connected. Otherwise, you'll get a bad video signal. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and pop off the top and give you a little closer look on the inside. Okay, so I popped the top off, top plate off, and very clean build here. The standoffs here are 20 millimeters high, so you guys, this is a low profile build. Well, yeah, I guess it's what they call a slam build. So basically the battery where it meets the top plate is going to be kind of in line with the prop line. You saw that earlier when the props were on, so that sort of gives a more centered CG feel in the flight. Honestly, to me, I didn't really think it's that big of a deal. I think it's more for looks than anything. Definitely there is a little bit of difference in CG, but it's not like a huge difference in flight characteristics. F4 flight controller here, and you got these little plugs here for the camera, and you have one for the receiver and one for the buzzer. I think that there aren't any solder points on the underside, so everything is all by plugs here. I don't see any solder pads. So I think accessing additional UARTs, like say if you want to add a GPS, that kind of thing, is going to be one of the limiting factors on here. You can see that there's pins here for adding maybe VTX or something like that. I think this came with something, or maybe part of a stack with the VTX with pins. There's pins here that go from the flight controller to the 490 AC, so if you're not a fan of that kind of style, then you're not going to like this. Not that there's going to be that much torque on this particular stack, because there's only two boards here. Even in a crash, I don't think that's going to cause too much problem. Build quality, I would say, you know, pretty good. Let's see, really clean solder joints there for the motor wires. All the wires are cut to length. Now, one of the things I didn't like was that they didn't include the OSD cable for the FPV camera to change your settings, and so there was like on the FPV feed, there's an OSD from the camera on the bottom. That's on by default. It says like Foxeer, pilot name, voltage, and power on time. I wanted to use the Betaflight OSD, so I just I turned it off. So I have lots of the Foxeer cameras with the OSD cable, so I just unplugged this and plugged in my Foxeer cable into another VTX and then turned that off. Not a big deal for me, but if you don't have that cable, then you're not going to be able to change that setting, and that will remain on the screen. So that is something I wish that they should turn off from the factory. That's one thing that they probably forgot. And if they're going to cut off the OSD cable, then yeah, they should definitely turn that off. So one little oversight here, obviously early versions, so maybe they'll fix that for later versions. You got your 4-in-1 AC on the bottom here. It's your battery leads. I don't see any like large capacitors anywhere, so I'm not sure if they're doing any filtration somewhere. But the video feed was super clean, like hardly any noise at all. At least from what I could tell. I mean, there's a tiny bit of noise, but really it wasn't bad at all compared to a lot of other builds you would see out there, or other so for example, Ready to Flies or Bind and Flies you get from, say, GearBest, like Sky Stars, for example, like a lot of video noise in some of those models. Maybe there's filtration here on the VTX, for example. Power switchable VTX, of course, smart audio, and it has an MMCX connector here for your antenna. There's a lead there, and then underneath here is the SpeedyB Bluetooth module. So I'll demonstrate that here in a second. You have to power this on to connect to that. And there's a little board here, and underneath that is a buzzer, and it's on the underside here. You can see there's a little LiPo battery, 1S LiPo battery, and the buzzer very, very loud. And if I'll show you that here in a second. You plug it in, if you crash, whatever, battery's ejected, this will start beeping, and there's little lights flashing here. And so basically, if you plug in the USB or the battery after you unplug it and it loses power, it detects that. I think after about 30 seconds, it'll start beeping. And so you need to press this button right here to prevent that from happening or to stop it. So I'll actually show you that here in a second. Okay, so and then a couple more things here on the frame. I believe the bottom plate here is a 3mm bottom plate. The top plate's a 2mm top plate. And then this little sandwich plate here is a 1.5mm stick. So it's about half the thickness of the bottom plate. And these arms are 5mm thick. You have these steel screws that go through these nuts here on the bottom. And one of the things that I had suggested to them is to switch this to press fit nuts here so they wouldn't stick out so much. You can see that it sticks out quite a bit. Now they did include these foam feet here for the underside of the arms. So it actually, with those on, those screws aren't actually hitting anything. That was the thing that I was worried about, is if you land on, say, a sidewalk, concrete, asphalt, that's going to scrape those nuts down and then make the nuts kind of hard to remove later if you need to. But you can see how everything, like basically you have 2 screws per arm, they're individual arms, to secure the arms. And I can already tell that people are going to complain that, oh, this is not very good quality carbon. Well, as far as I can tell, it's pretty decent. Very stiff. 5mm arms are very hard to break, and I couldn't bend them at all. So yeah, we'll have to see what the durability is really like in the long run. But as far as I can tell, this is better quality carbon than I've seen in the past from Eachine. So they have obviously continued to improve their whatever process or whoever they've acquired their carbon from, but it's pretty decent. And I think that for this model, it's more than sufficient, especially at the cost that they're selling this at. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the buzzer or lost model alarm. So you're going to hear a very loud buzz here when I plug it in. And then when you unplug this, it's just going to assume that it's like a battery ejection. You see this little LED flashing underneath here. It's right there. And if you just let it sit here, it'll just start beeping as if you've crashed or something. If you don't want it to beep, you have to press that button there while the light is flashing, and then the light will turn off. I'll show that here in a second. Really loud. Okay, so that all you have to do is press the button, and that will stop that. So if you don't want that to happen, you have to remember to do this. So you plug it in. Then you unplug, and then while the light's flashing, if you press the button there, the light will turn off, and then it won't. Obviously, it won't beep because you've disarmed it. So just I've forgotten to do that several times, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, it's beeping at me really loud, and it's very loud, similar to like the V5 Find V5. I can't even say their name. V5 Finder lost model alarm, similar buzzer size, and you can hear it from about a distance of maybe 75, 80 meters. somewhere in there, but beyond that you can't really hear it, depending upon obviously your other noise in the environment. But you know, louder than most buzzers. I think most ordinary buzzers you can only hear them within about 20-30 meters, so you can definitely hear from further away, and it is very loud. Okay, so I got it plugged in. You have to have this plugged in to demonstrate the Bluetooth module. You can get the SpeedyBee app from the Google Play Store, and then you just click on Bluetooth here to start scanning. And then you'll see the Bluetooth module here. It's called SB something. And then you should be able to connect it and change your Betaflight settings. And there we go. I'm connected. Shows the battery voltage. And I've demonstrated this app before. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see how this was used. I used it with an on-the-go cable plugged into the USB-C port on this phone, and then you plug it. You can also plug it into the USB port on the flight controller. But yeah, this thing has like, I mean, to add that additional feature here, so you can use your phone to change settings without plugging in the USB port, is just another added value item. Which you can get for this price is pretty amazing. They really did a heck of a job getting all these components in here, quality components, and a really solid build for the price. But yeah, you can change your settings in here if you want. There's ports. This is just basically like standard Betaflight settings. I don't believe they did any major changes to the PIDs or anything. So this is the PIDs here, and this is Betaflight 352. I believe these are standard PIDs. Feed forward. All these numbers here are the same. I just put in my rates, and I made a few other adjustments to the feed forward transition, things that I particularly like, but for the most part I didn't do any tuning at all, and it flew pretty good. I mean, there's a little bit of vibration you'll see in the flight demo. I think I just needed, basically you just need to turn down, I believe, P on roll and pitch a little bit, and yaw. I would just maybe bump those down maybe to like about 5 or 10, and maybe bump down D just a little bit. That should get rid of any of those little vibrations. But yeah, you can change any of your settings using the SpeedyBee app, just like you would do on the computer and Betaflight configurator. All the same settings are here, so very cool feature. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is where I put my receiver. This is the XM Plus FreeSky receiver, and the UART that they're using here on this plug for the receiver is on UART 6. So that's important because it just comes with a servo lead. You can just cut that off and solder to your receiver, which is what I did here. I believe UART 6 doesn't have any of those inversion issues that you would have on UART 1. I didn't test that myself, but if you have like a FlySky receiver or Spectrum receiver, you should be able to use that same UART here. And I believe one of the pins here is for 3.3 volts if you have one of those Spectrum satellite receivers. The standard power out on this particular port that the plug is on is 5 volts, so keep that in mind. But the problem is, where are you going to put your FlySky receiver? So even like if you get like the FLIT 14 Plus receiver, I'm like, where am I going to stick that? There's like this is a really tight build. I was even struggling to figure out how to get the XM Plus in here. I did manage to get it in there. I mean, it wasn't terribly difficult, but I was scratching my head at first as to where to put that. And I think that maybe if you had a FlySky receiver, you might be able to put it under the ESC here. That's pretty much the only place I think you could put it. The other possibility is probably maybe behind the camera here. That's probably where the most space is going to be. And then I think you're kind of limited by the angler and sort of the length of your receiver. So I didn't try any of those FlySky receivers or any Spectrum receivers. I actually don't have any Spectrum receivers, so I can't test that. But yeah, that is going to be an issue if you have a FlySky setup. You're gonna have to be creative as to where you're gonna put that receiver. I think probably behind the camera would be the best, and then run your antennas here on the arms with some zip ties here, and you can put that antenna here out on the arms. That would probably be the best place for a FlySky receiver. And of course, this wire here that's on this plug is really long. You see, I just kind of stuffed it in here. It's all kind of tangled up. So you should be able to wrap it around here or underneath the flight controller into this area for a FlySky receiver. Yeah, but that's probably the one thing. It's a super tight build. Setting up your receiver is going to be tricky if you're a beginner. But yeah, this is how I did mine. If you have an XM Plus, right here is the perfect spot for that. So that's where I would recommend putting that. Anyway, it's going to do it for my review of the Wizard X220HV, and I'll go ahead and show you some flight demo footage and My verdict on this here is I think it's a buy. I know, people that are in the hobby for a while, they're going to tell you that if you're new to the hobby, you shouldn't be buying something like this, and they should be building, and you should learn how to do repairs, all that kind of stuff. There's a school of thought that I guess there's some pros and cons for that. But then I think that for the cost, I'm wondering how are you going to be able to find or build a 6S build of this quality for not even double the price. I'm thinking, if you can get this for $170, what's double the price? Like $300, $320, $330. Can you build something at the 6S of this level of quality for $300, $350? I would say I would say you're going to be challenged to find all the parts and everything, to actually do the build. Then you got to learn how to build. Of course, as a beginner, you're probably going to mess up something. You should buy, if you buy the very expensive motors or whatever, or whatever flight controller, you mess up, and then you have to buy 2 of those. That's going to, increase your cost. What I would just say is just buy this, and then if you crash, if you happen to damage something, which I'm not saying this is indestructible, but this is a pretty good build. I think this is you would have to have some severe, really bad crashes to damage stuff inside here. I think it's very well protected. You could probably break an arm, but they're going to be selling spare arms. You could easily replace those 2 screws there and just put the motor back on. Obviously it's not perfect, but I think that for the money, as if you're a beginner and you want to get into 5-inch freestyle quads, I would say buy this, and then if you need to do repairs, then you can learn how to do repairs, on this particular one, and of course all the spare parts will be available for this down the road. I know that for the previous 2 versions of the Wizard, soon after the model came out, I think about a month or so, all the spare parts. Okay, so my camera battery died there. I think it was telling me to stop talking. I was rambling on too much. But anyway, spare parts will be available. My verdict here is buy this. I think if you're looking to buy a 5-inch 6S freestyle drone, definitely check this one out. The price is really good. Good components, good build, good performance. So yeah, enough said. If you have any comments below, if you disagree, agree, whatever, let me know what you guys think of this. Go ahead and show you the flight demo now and stop talking. Okay, this is the stock PIDs. I think they're stock Betaflight PIDs they came out of the box, so no tuning on this. See how it flies? Throttle's very responsive. So I don't think it's going to require too much tuning. If you're worried about tuning, it looks like it's an okay tune. Not the greatest. It could use a little bit of tuning. We'll have to see what the GoPro footage looks like, but I can see just a tiny bit of oscillation. Just a tiny bit. So I am using these prototype iFlight 6S LiPos, and it does seem like there's a bit of voltage sag on these. The video is very nice and clear, hardly any breakups at all. I'm not sure what power setting I'm on. I think it might be 25 milliwatts. So just stock things. I didn't change anything. I just flew it. I basically just charged this battery, put the props on, set up my transmitter. Oh, I see some birds. I think they're coming here. Maybe they're interested in the noise. Anyway, didn't do any tuning. Just basic setup. I obviously had to install the receiver. Pretty tight in there for a receiver. I put an XM Plus in here and just set up my transmitter, my modes. Nothing too fancy, and I think it took about 15 minutes of setup. I got Got a low battery warning there. So I think I'm gonna have to wait for another batch of these 6S lipos from Rifle. They're gonna be sending me some new ones later. These, the prototypes, seem to have a lot of sag. But yeah, for a 6S 23-6 motor, you're gonna need decent 6S lipos, I think. But overall, can't complain for the money. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be getting that coupon code for you guys or not, but you know, like 20 bucks off. You can get it for like what 170? This is a steal at 170. Even a 190 is a good deal. Any kind of a 6S setup you're gonna be building on your own, you're gonna be paying a pretty penny for it. And not sure if it's gonna be that much better than this. Yeah, this is pretty impressive. I like it. So about 3.5 minutes, not too bad. Just kind of cruise around here a little bit. So back into the battery. Take it down to about 21 volts and then land it. Okay, there we're about 21 volts here. Almost 4 minutes, not too bad. 1050 milliamp hour 6S. No, definitely would recommend this one. This is one of the best Eachine products I've seen in a long time. Okay, so this is going to be the unboxing of the Eachine Wizard X220HV. Comes in a pretty nice box like all the recent Eachine models. Okay, so right here on the top is a set of props. Looks like we got 2 sets of the Dow Cyclone T5046. And we get, this looks like a TBS Triumph antenna. Stubby, but I think it's rebranded. Okay, got a bunch of these loose bags in here. Got some spare screws and nuts, a couple spare standoffs, and it looks like your prop nuts. So it's nice that they're including some spares. Carbon fiber wrenches for the prop nuts. And we got some foam feet, landing feet for the arms, and looks like this is the skinnier variety. They're a little bit narrower because the arms are narrower. Got a bag of zip ties. And it looks like they're including this, looks like a GoPro mount, but I think this is actually for the Runcam 3, so it's a little bit bigger. It might not fit a GoPro. It might be able to fit a GoPro if put some foam in there or something. Okay, so here's the drone itself, and yeah, you can see it's a low profile build. Get your main stack there, and yeah, 490C flight controller, and then you got a separate stack in the back. Looks like there are 2 30x30 stacks, and yeah, this one is plug and play, so I think this is for your receiver. I'll be using a FreeSky XM Plus. Got your connection back here, so RPSMA for your antenna and your XD60. This looks like this is less than 20 millimeters in height. It looks like maybe 15 millimeters. Pretty low profile for the stack. And yeah, I like that they have a dual stack here and one in the back. Got your buzzer here. I think this one also has a spare battery, a 1S battery. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Video transmitters back here as well. I think this is probably where you're going to have to stick your receiver. I think these are 5mm thick arms. And the width looks like about 10 millimeters. And here are the motors. Eachine branded 2306 1650 kV. And these look a lot like the Sprague motors from Racer Star. It looks like they're coming from the same factory. Very nicely, very smooth, hollow shaft there. Nice thick wires for the coils. And on the bottom here we have a set screw, not a C-clip. Nice. Open bottom design. And looks like the magnets are curved. This does feel like a solid motor. The camera here, I think it's a Foxeer camera. Yeah, it's the Foxeer Aero Mini Pro, so it's a mini size camera. Nice big lens here. I'm not sure how wide angle it is. See, yeah, it's the 2.5 millimeter lens, not the 1.8, so not as wide as I would like, but should be fine. And because it's so low profile and the way the camera is, you have this setup here where the camera can basically kind of hang underneath here. This, you see the bottom plate here, and this just protects the bottom of the camera from getting damaged with this little design. And then they put the arms underneath the bottom plate, sandwiched between the bottom plate and a sandwich plate there with all these nuts and screws going through. Kind of wish they would use press fit nuts here, because you can see all these nuts stick out. So you're going to need to put those landing feet on the arms, otherwise you'll be scraping this. And they got some, looks like some tape here that's coming off a little bit. That's holding the motor wires on. Overall, the build looks really clean. You can kind of see those solder joints, pretty nice clean solder joints. Nice thick silicone wire, like the purple color. It's pretty nice. Got a couple of battery straps here already installed into the top plate, so no need to take the top plate off. Yeah, overall pretty nice. Can't complain too much. It looks really nice for the money. Only, I think, $189 for this, and less if you have a coupon code. So for a 6S build, definitely can't complain too much for this. Very nice build.